You can have the job, the body, the person who says they love you, and the apartment you were proud enough to post. Every box checked, every metric green, and at 2 in the morning, staring at a ceiling for no reason you could name to anyone, something in you is quietly screaming. That's not a bad week. That's a diagnosis. A Danish philosopher named Søren Kierkegaard spent an entire book on this 200 years ago, and his opening move was brutal. You are not simply a body with feelings attached. You are a relationship, the part of you that thinks, the part that wants, the part stuck with a past you didn't choose, negotiating constantly with the part that's supposed to build a future. When that negotiation breaks down, when you stop relating to yourself honestly, the break has a name. He called it despair. Not sadness, not a mood, a structural fault running in the background of an otherwise functional life. And the form of it that does the most damage isn't the one that announces itself. It's the one that doesn't feel like anything at all, the despair mistaken for having your life together, because nothing about your life is currently on fire. Kierkegaard's claim, and it's not comfortable, is that most people carrying this never find out. They've confused the absence of a crisis with the presence of a cure. So before you decide none of this applies to you, think of the last time you scrolled through somebody else's life, and for one full second, wished you could just live inside it instead of your own. Not admired it, wanted it. Wanted out of yours and into theirs. That wasn't envy. That was the first symptom talking. You don't actually want the promotion. You want to stop being the person who needs one. You don't want their apartment, their partner, their calm. You want out of the one you're currently living in. Kierkegaard built this argument around a man so hungry to become something enormous that failing to become it felt unbearable, not because of what he lost, but because he could no longer stand being himself. Swap emperor for the friend who made partner at 29, or her with the version of the life you were supposed to get, and the mechanism hasn't aged a day. Every time you catch yourself wanting someone else's outcome, look closer. You're rarely chasing their outcome. You're trying to be relieved of yourself for a while, and they just happen to be the shape that relief is currently taking. The instinct is to fix this the way you fix everything else. A new routine, a wellness app that scores your mood so you can optimize it down, 4 more books about discipline. The global self-improvement industry is worth more than $60 billion a year now and growing, which should tell you something. Not that self-improvement doesn't work, but that an enormous number of people keep buying the next version of a fix that didn't work the last time. Kierkegaard's blunt version of this, written before self-help existed as a category: the harder a man works alone to get rid of a self he can't stand, the deeper he drives himself into it. You cannot outproduce a broken relationship with yourself. You can only, eventually, run out of new routines. You've tried this already, rebranded as a reset, a glow-up, new year, new me. Be honest about how long the relief lasted. A weekend? An afternoon? That's not a discipline problem. That's proof the tool was never built for this job. Some people get the divorce, change the city, quit the job that was supposedly killing them. 2 years later, new apartment, new job, sometimes a new partner, and the exact same feeling is sitting there waiting, like it drove ahead and got there first. Kierkegaard gave this pattern its strangest name, a sickness unto death. That, in his account, isn't a sickness that kills you. It's the opposite, a condition where even the biggest removal you can picture doesn't reach it, because the fracture was never in your circumstances. It's in the relationship between you and the plain fact of being you, and that relationship doesn't dissolve because the address changed, or the year changed, and this is the harder version to sit with, because the person changed entirely into someone new. In 1978, researchers tracked a group of people who had just won the lottery. Genuinely life-altering money dropped into their lap overnight. A few months later, they weren't measurably happier than people who'd bought a ticket and lost. The most dramatic external change available to an ordinary life, and the baseline held. Despair, when it gets loud enough, narrows the options down to 2: numb it or remove the whole thing. That narrowing feels like clarity arriving. It's the opposite. It's the condition doing what conditions like this do, convincing you the exit is bigger than the problem, when the problem was never the size of a life, a job, or an ending. It was the size of one relationship you've never actually sat down and had. The version of you that's exhausted right now isn't tired of being alive. It's tired of managing a self it was never taught how to actually live inside. That's a solvable problem. It's just never been the one you were trying to solve. The person everyone in your life describes as having it together might be the one in the most danger. Not from anything visible, from the fact that nothing about their life currently requires them to be anyone in particular. Kierkegaard pictured the self as a house, several floors, one of them built for something enormous. Call it spirit, call it the part of you that isn't just habit and appetite and preference. Most people, he said, choose to live in the basement. Not because the basement is pleasant, because the basement doesn't ask anything of you. You furnish it well, steady job, steady gym schedule, a personality built entirely out of preferences you can list on command. From the outside, it reads as someone who arrived. From the inside, if you ever actually stop scrolling long enough to check, there's a floor up there you haven't opened the door to in years. This is exactly the profile Kierkegaard warned about hardest, not the person falling apart, the person who never has to. He called this version of the condition the most dangerous, not because it hurts the most, but because it doesn't hurt at all. It runs so quietly that the person living it will tell you straight-faced that everything's fine, and mean every word of it. Smoothed down like a stone that's been in the river long enough, pleasant to hold, current as a coin, worn down to nothing that resembles the shape it started as. You felt something reading that paragraph. You already know which door in your own house you haven't opened in years, and right now, mid-sentence, some part of you is reaching for your phone to make the feeling go away before you have to finish thinking it. Every fix you've tried for this had one thing in common. You were the one running it. That was the mistake. It's also the only reason there's still a way out. Kierkegaard's argument gets to its sharpest point here, and it's worth hearing exactly because people soften it before it lands. A self cannot build itself, not fully, not alone. He said the only way out of this condition is to relate to yourself honestly, and rest that relationship on something you didn't invent and can't fully control. His own answer to what that something is was God. You don't have to take his answer, but you don't get to skip his diagnosis on the way past it. Whatever you put in that position, it has to be something outside your own authorship, or the loop never closes. A system cannot audit itself from the inside. In practice, before it gets philosophical, it looks almost embarrassingly small. It's the friend who can sit with an ugly, unresolved thing about themselves and just say out loud, "I don't know why I do this," without turning it into a 5-step plan to fix it by Friday. That's not passivity. That's the only version of a relationship with yourself that's ever actually held. This isn't a problem you solve once, the way you'd fix a leak. Kierkegaard was specific about that too. The condition doesn't happen to you and sit there. You re-choose it, or you don't. Every single day you avoid the conversation. So which one did you just do? Reading this.